and welcome here to TalkFCB, and welcome back to the channel here today, guys, for a very big and very important video, because it all revolves around Hansi Flick's footballing philosophy. Today, we are going to be looking at what he's going to bring to Barça, and specifically, we're going to be using quotes from the man himself, from his recent interview as the new Barça coach, to understand what football we are going to see, and hopefully what we're going to enjoy next season and beyond. So get comfortable right here. This should be an exciting journey. So let's begin. But I want to start, first of all, guys, with some very special super thanks donations coming in. An absolutely extraordinary one here from Jesse. I'm sure you all know Jesse right here on the channel by now, and he unfortunately is going through a bit of a difficult time personally right now. So I would like to send out today all of my very best wishes to him, and a huge thank you for the big support. And I also want to wish a belated happy birthday to Adrian here. He's been on the channel since the Valverde days. He celebrated his birthday over the weekend, and I hope you had a fantastic day, and thank you there, guys, to all of you for the great support. But if we get down to the very important business here, and let's actually start with that important business, because already in pre-season we are already seeing taking shape what Flick is starting to do at Barca, and it all begins here with the physical improvement. That's something we've spoken about a great deal here on the channel. It's been said, of course, that we haven't seen training like this at Barca, the intensity, the attention to detail there, the planning, the preparation, in years. We have not seen anything like this, apparently, dating back to the Luis Enrique days at Barca. And what this extreme change on the physical side will translate to on the field is not only being able to play at a high intensity. Of course, that's great. That's what you want to achieve. We want to be a team that plays high intensity football. That is what the very best teams do. But the most important thing for me is not just being able to play it, but sustaining it. That is absolutely vital, because that is the one thing that we haven't been able to do. We have not been able to crack that. We've had games where we've had great spells, we threaten teams, we put pressure on opponents, and we can play at pace. But how many times, guys, honestly, hand on heart here, how many times have we been able to do that for a whole game? How many games have you come away and thought that was a complete performance? Because there's always lapses with Barca. Even Joan Laporta, when Flick was appointed there, he alluded to the fact, and everybody's seeing it, that Barca have maybe an hour of a game, that they can compete, that they can be very strong, they can match anybody, they can go toe-to-toe, but those lapses will always come. The failure to sustain that intensity, that focus, and you'll get punished, especially against the best teams. They're waiting for you to drop off. They're waiting there for a drop in intensity, and they will strike. And that is why here, what Flick is doing on the physical side, it is preparation, it is planning, it is preparing us and every player for the season to come, and that is so important. And right here today, guys, we're going to be talking about more freedom in the attacking areas there. We're going to be talking about the exciting football, unlocking our attacking talent. But what I want to say here is, how do you ensure that your team has the license to go forward, to be expressive, to be exciting, but how do you also ensure that you've got discipline and that you've got structure? How will Hansi Flick introduce that here to his Barca team? Because let's talk about pressing. Let's talk here about the pressure that we at Barca are going to apply to our opponents, winning the ball back there, and even more importantly, winning it back in the right areas of the field. And let's actually begin with one of the first quotes that we have from Hansi Flick. In his recent interview here, as the Barcelona coach, he said, "The press at Barca will sometimes be one way, but then other times it will be higher than normal." And I think it's going to be really intriguing with Hansi Flick to see just how high up the field he wants that defensive line. Because during his time at Bayern, guys, I think you'll all remember there, the very best of Hansi Flick's Bayern, their defensive line literally was on the halfway line. What they did and what Hansi Flick's team did best, they suffocated teams. Teams did not have time to breathe on the ball. You know, you'd look up and they'd be swarmed there with Bayern players around them. We know very very, very well. Unfortunately, we've got fantastic experience of what it was like during the 8-2. We were looking around and we were just dominated in every single area of the field by that Bayern team. And of course, what it is there, having that very, very high line, it is high risk. It's a very high risk strategy, and that's why it doesn't always pay off. But when it does, it's very, very high reward. But what I want to say there, that's why Flick maybe has said sometimes it'll be one way, but other times it might be higher. I think he is open to modification. I think against certain teams, certain players, maybe the line won't be as high. I don't think he's going to be naive. I think he's going to have to be tactically flexible at times and understanding that maybe different teams, different systems, there may need to be adjustments in exactly how high that line is going to be. But I think in general, we are going to see a high line. We are going to see a team here under Hansi Flick. They're not going to back away. They are never going to take one step back. They are always going to look to be on the front foot. They're going to be proactive. They're not going to be reacting to what other teams are doing and then basing their system around what we're up against. Hansi Flick here is focused on what we can do. And I think one thing that I can almost guarantee we won't see with Hansi Flick, it's dropping back once we have a lead in the game. Because I don't know about you guys, but one of the most frustrating things over the past few seasons with me at Barca is that when we've been ahead, when we've been 1-0 up in games, watching us just retreat, watching us almost say, well, that's good enough for us, now we're going to defend, now we're going to drop back. That is not Barca. That's never really been about what Barca is. I think with Flick here, we're going to see the foot on the gas. We are going to see full acceleration, full steam ahead. You're going to keep playing the same way, no matter what the scoreline is. If you're 1-0 up, the aim, make it 2-0. And I think we're also going to see that German way as well, whereby it's a relentless team. It's a ruthless team. They don't care how badly they're beating you. They're going to keep going, and they will not stop. And that's what I want to see at Barca. I want us to be ruthless again. I want us to be clinical in front of goal. That is something that we must address as well. But I think here, guys, when it comes to winning the ball back, there is another element too that I think we must discuss here and looking at Hansi Flick's words. Because you know at Barca, at times, guys, we're always faced with the same kind of problem, particularly when you're talking about La Liga. It's deep blocks. There's no way through. You know, you've got a defensive line there that set themselves out there very, very deep in the field, and we can't find a way through. We're passing it slowly. We're crossing the ball. It's repetitive. It's slow. It's boring at times to have to come up against these teams. We've seen it 1,000 times. But what intrigues me most about Hansi Flick is that we may actually, at times, invite the opposition to have the ball, to come out, to play in certain areas, but not by our mistake, but by our design. Because listen to this here, from Hansi Flick recently. He said, maybe we want to guide the opposition in the right direction, where we want them to be, so that we can win the ball. And I think that's a really, really fascinating quote there. For our coach to be saying, we're going to guide the opposition, almost as though we're going to make them do things that they don't actually realise that they're doing, and then we're going to take advantage of that. And that is a really, really interesting thing, because I think at times you've got to allow teams to come out of their shape. You know, they think they're advancing, they think they're making inroads in the game, but then they take the risk themselves, and you can hurt them. I think you see this all the time, by the way, with a team like Real Madrid. You feel as though Real Madrid, they can be in control of a game without being in control of a game. You know, they don't always have to have the ball. They don't always have to be suffocating the opposition there, constantly in possession. But you feel as though when the opposition have the ball, especially in big games, they've got the situation under control. They are allowing them to be in those kinds of areas, and they can plan their next strike. But the key for this is, and the most important thing I'd say right now, to do this, to actually play this kind of football, you've got to have confidence in the structure that you have in place. If you allow teams or guide teams to play in certain areas, you've got to be 100% sure you've got the ability, you've got the players to win that ball back, because otherwise teams can start to cut through you. And this is what is interesting for me about this pivot situation. If Hansi Flick here doesn't feel as though we need a defensive pivot, maybe the club just aren't giving him one, we don't know. If he doesn't feel as though he needs to sign a ball winner, surely he must have an alternative system in mind. Surely maybe he might already have a player from within that he believes can do this role, because you need to have the players there that can win the ball back. You need to have the right midfield structure to be in the positions to take advantage when the opposition have fallen into your trap. So I think it's really interesting here to see what happens with Hansi Flick, to see what happens there with that midfield, because as a theory, it's very exciting. It is a really intriguing situation there to just lull our opponents into a false sense of security. But we need to be ready, and we need to have the players and the structure to get that ball back. But okay, guys, now it's time for the pure excitement, because what happens when you do win that ball back? What happens when you're in the perfect kind of position here, when you've lured out the opposition and you've got that extra yard of space? You've got that one player from the opposition that's just shifted out of position. How will you be ready to exploit that? Well, now I want to talk about freedom, because Hansi Flick says, in his own words, I believe that everyone has to feel free in order to play their best that they can with the ball. So Flick is saying here, in order for these players at Barca, these incredibly talented players that I have, in order for them to reach their peak level, their peak performance, they need to feel free. They have to have some element of freedom. And this is what I've been crying out for. This, for me, at Barca, is what we need. We have the players, we have the talent, we have such quality in the attacking areas. Don't restrict them. Because, yeah, you can have a system. We've spoken about that a lot already here today. Particularly, without the ball, you need to have a clear structure, a clear plan. But when we are in possession, when we've turned over that ball, these players are good enough. These players are good enough here to find those pockets of space, to be moving into the right areas, to cause problems, to create chances. And I think you look here at somebody like Lamine Yamal, and there is a reason why he's so excited to be working under Hansi Flick, whereby already spoken several times about that joy, about the fact that in this system he may really, really enjoy it, because you've seen what he can do at Spain, and that was a system there that was a little bit more fluid. He was able there to have more freedom to move into different areas, so to take on different responsibilities, and he was a different level. Absolutely unbelievable was Lamine Yamal with Spain. And of course, you think about it as well, we may be about to add Nico. You might have the two of them on either side, and imagine those two in a fluid system, having that freedom, having that license to roam at times and cause danger wherever they feel like it, because freedom makes you unpredictable, and making you unpredictable gives opposition nightmares. It is hard to defend against players when you don't know exactly where they're going to pop up next. That is why, by the way, guys, you think about Messi as a false nine. When Pep introduced that all those years ago, defenders didn't know what to do. You can't defend against space. And if you've got players there who are constantly moving, constantly fluid in their positioning, you don't know where you're supposed to pick them up. You'll have defenders there stepping out of their defensive line. You'll have midfielders being dragged out of position. That's where the mistakes come from. There is a reason why teams, particularly in La Liga, have been able to defend against Barca. They've been able to set up and sit deep and absorb pressure. We don't move enough. We are not unpredictable enough. In the final third there, it's easy to defend against Barca. Up until this point, something has to change. We need more freedom. We need to be winning the ball back in different areas. And these are the kinds of adjustments that we have been lacking. And I've got to say, guys, I am truly excited about Hansi Flick. And look, it's early days. We still don't know how this is all going to go. We don't know how the football exactly will look. We don't know what kind of results we're going to get. But Flick represents change. I absolutely guarantee you here, 100%, we're going to see a different kind of Barca. We don't know how it's going to go, but that's part of the journey. We are going to see here a team who are on the front foot. There may be high-risk football. We need to be prepared for that. We need to have the players and the system in place to deal with those kinds of risks. And I think the football's going to be exciting. I think we're going to see good, exciting, dominant, attacking play. That's Barca. And that is the kind of Barca that we absolutely love to watch. So please guys, do let me know your thoughts in the comments down below here based on these extracts that we have from Hansi Flick, on that style of play, on that footballing philosophy. What are your early signs here, early indications about what he's going to do with this Barca team? Do you share my excitement? Do you believe that we can compete in the coming season? Let me know your thoughts down below. I will see you soon with lots more coming up. Thank you indeed for your great support. But until next time, as always, Vejska, El Barça.